in studio. Welcome again to former Prime Minister Ehud Olmert. Thank you again for being here in studio on this day. Before we get to the current developments we just heard about, I want to go back, if you don't mind, to 17 years ago exactly, and how you felt that moment, the magnitude and the gravity of the moment when you first heard that 2 Israeli soldiers had been kidnapped. How did you feel? Talk us through your recollections, please.
Well, obviously, I was upset when I heard about it, and I was not entirely surprised. In our discussions prior to this event, we anticipated that such an attempt may be made. And what happened then is that 2 Israeli soldiers were killed, and actually kidnapped and killed, and 8 more were killed in an ambush just across the border on our side. So this was the type of event that we anticipated that if it will take place, we'll have to respond. So I was upset. I was unhappy about it, obviously, because of the fact that 10 Israeli soldiers were killed. But I knew that we have to respond, and I was getting ready to address ourselves to this attack, vicious attack by Nasrallah. What I knew then, which disturbed me for quite a time, was that we lost the deterrence against the Hezbollah years before, and we have not restored it. So I understood that we have to do something that will quieten them down for quite a time.
I want to fast forward to exactly that point 17 years later. We know Hassan Nasrallah is going to be speaking in the next hour or so. And we know that Hezbollah has entrenched itself right there despite Resolution 1701. If you look back at the way things ended, do you have regrets about the fact that that terror group right now is able, as we heard, to still inflict a threat on Israel 17 years later? Your feelings?
Well, first of all, I think we all have to recognize the fact that for the last 17 years they didn't do anything. So we have brought safety and security for the people living in the north part of Israel for 17 years. You know that there was a time that the young kids in Kiryat Shmona, in Metula, in all those places were sitting almost every day in a shelter.
Sure.
There are 17 years old guys and girls in Kiryat Shmona that never sat one day in a shelter as a result of that operation. So I think that, number one, it is now recognized by everyone that it has been a strategic achievement for us. We haven't destroyed the Hezbollah, and they were assisted all over the years by the Iranians, by the Syrians, by others, and they were supplied with quite a magnitude of weapons, which can still create a difficulty for Israel. But I'm not certain that they are very anxious to engage in a military confrontation with Israel.
And yet, we are seeing these provocations, we're seeing these tents that were set up. We are seeing an anti-tank missile being sent across just in recent days. And I want to speak to you specifically about the mission from Hassan Nasrallah, because he makes his mission very clear, and he spoke very recently about the divisions within Israel. It makes the country look weak. Are you worried from a security perspective? You yourself have been very involved in the protest movement underway at the moment. Concerns about judicial overhaul is seeing a response from pilots, from reservists who are saying they won't get involved if the judicial overhaul gets passed. How does that look in the eyes of Hassan Nasrallah right now?
I don't speak for Hassan Nasrallah, and I'm not sure.
But he thinks that Israel might look weak.
Let's make 2 observations about it. Number one, Israel is being weakened by the actions of the government. There is no question about it. The demonstrations, the divisions, the polarization of the Israeli society to such an extent is something that is entirely a result of the government actions, which are reckless and irresponsible. And I think that this is something that will have to be changed, and I'll talk about it in a minute. However, I want to advise everyone that in the event that the Hezbollah will try to push it one step further, they will be met by a unified country and a strong army that will teach them another lesson.
Tell me that.
And I'm not certain that Nasrallah is prepared to go through a similar experience to the one that he had then, when he said that had he known what would be the reaction of Israel then, even 1% of it, he wouldn't have started it. So I suggest to him that he will take into consideration that this will be even much harsher and more devastating reaction on behalf of Israel.
I only have a few seconds left until the break. Very briefly, if rockets were to be, and hopefully they won't, but if they were to come from the north, from Hezbollah towards Israel, will the people who are threatening not to serve, in your opinion, actually go forward and defend the country? Very briefly.
There is no question about it. The Israeli army has never, the Israeli fighters, the Israeli pilots, everyone said from the outset, if there will be an emergency security situation, will be where we always were. They are the fighters, not the ministers in the cabinet.
Former Israeli Prime Minister Ehud Olmert, thank you so much for being here in studio on this day. We appreciate your time.